Hello, beautiful lovers. I am so excited to be here today on the 11th of the 11th, 2020. So just letting you know that as we record this, Mercury has just regressed back into Scorpio after his retrograde. So we are deep in Scorpio season with Mercury back in Scorpio. We are talking about Lilith, which is very scorpionic, underworld, death, rich and juicy. And we've done it on the perfect day in the perfect time at 11:11. So I have a beautiful, beautiful witch with me here who is just a soul friend, and it's like our hearts know each other. And we talked on the phone a couple of months ago, and it was just this like glue straight away. She is a fellow Taurian. Us Taurians do tend to have a little secret society, let's be honest. And Mikailah is from Starwitch Astrology, and she does magical witchy poo things, and she's been doing astrology for a long time. I'll let her talk about that. But today we want to talk about Lilith, and Mikailah is, you know, the person I wanted to come to talk about Lilith. We're constantly unraveling our charts, and that's something that me and Mikailah are very in alignment with, being intuitive astrologers, that there's constantly things revealed for us to learn after decades of diving into our own charts. And that's what's exciting. I think that's what keeps the riches. And we spoke earlier today, and it was about us bringing back ancient ways, that it's not just textbook stuff. Like, this is how do you feel about your chart? And that's the way that we work when it comes to astrology, not just the typical, it means this, but how does that feel for you? And we want to bring you something juicy in a couple of episodes over the next few weeks to help you unpack your own Lilith as well, to understand her better. So without me continuing to bang on, I will bang on just quietly, just really quickly, because the astrology of today is just rad. Like, you can't make this shit up stuff. That Mercury regressing back into Scorpio is actually conjunct my true Lilith, plus true Lilith in the sky today. So we are talking Black Moon Lilith in there is a mean and a true version. The true Lilith in the sky is actually conjunct my sun today. And the midheaven right now as we talk is also in Scorpio. So there is, you know, here we both are in our prime. Like, we love astrology, and the midheaven here in Brisbane right now as we speak is in Scorpio as well. So it's pretty exciting stuff. So I want to click over to Mikailah for a little bit to introduce your journey with astrology, Mikailah, your love of it. And yeah, I've got like heaps of stuff that I've want to rant on about, and I want to bring you Mikailah's wisdom around, especially for this session. Let's look at the mythology of her, and let's start to get a feel of her. Hey, Mikailah, like, actually, let's start to embody her in this episode, just to feel what she feels like, because there's going to be a lot of stuff come up around her mythology. And Mikailah's got a great personal story around her own journey with Lilith. And so she's going to tell that today as well. We both we'll talk about those things, but yeah. I come to Mikailah because, you know, this embodiment that Mikailah has with Lilith is next to none. So I'm excited and very honored to have fellow Star Witch with me today. So thank you and love you. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh, thank you, darling. And I've just been mesmerized looking at you, because you do encapsulate and embody her, Black Moon Lilith. You really are her. And when you shared that she's placed in your first house, this is how you bring her essence and magic, all of her, because there's many, many different aspects to her, which is what I love about working with Black Moon Lilith. You are the embodiment of her. And I'm always very honored to collaborate or be in situations of sharing knowledge and wisdom with women that truly walk with Lilith. and also men as well. It's not just segregated to women. She is the gift for everybody, because in ancient mythology, if we go right back in time, she has a strong presence in the Old Testament, but if we go back in time to ancient Mesopotamia, the people were very earth-based, and they celebrated the cosmic cycles, the heavens as above, so below. And they fully encapsulated Black Moon Lilith in what I feel she is traversing in the moment in Taurus. So she's currently transiting in Taurus. And this is about feeling us on her, living with Earth in our deep sensuality, our sexuality, no shame. So essentially, she is about releasing all the shame and the taboo that we've carried throughout the ages for all of us that are so strongly connected in our hearts to her. So I have Black Moon Lilith. Her mean position is in Leo, conjunct Vesta, the sacred earth priestess. So for me, it is about telling her story, bringing us back to sovereignty, to empowerment, to who we are truly meant to be in our creative, authentic expression. And where she is in our charts, it's about being the psychic detective, so very scorpionic, and using her themes, her essence, her magic to transmute the toxicity and the poison that can get projected or internalized from the shadow, the toxic shadow feminine, and really being aware of how we transmute the poison, the toxicity, whether it's collective or personal, so that we are empowered and we are unified and we are working with her in a very progressive way. And you would know this story throughout your own life experience, Tiani, with what you've experienced. So each individual has their own Lilith story through their personal life experiences. And once we are aware of this and we own it and integrate it and embody it, we are essentially free from the chains of patriarchy that has bound us as witches, as healers, as psychics, as seers, as oracles.
Yeah.
For everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the path that we truly walk. So that's why I'm so greatly honored and very excited to be here with you, diving deep into this at this particular time. Yeah, because she's needed to be known, to be called out of the shadows, to integrate her back into our lives so that she's not exiled and outcast anymore.
Yeah, and I love that you said about back in the day she was celebrated on Earth, right? And there's this element of the disconnect when it comes to Lilith, and where we have been suppressed and shunned, and this is all the suppression and the shunning and repression. And obviously we're going to go more into the mythology in this video, but when you talk about celebrating the Earth cycles and that we live on her, that this is all about being disconnected from our instincts. So this is about being disconnected from the feminine instinct. And in reading a lot of literature over the past little while about Lilith, there's, you know, this the disconnect from instinct goes as easy and as simple as a woman taking the pill because the doctor told her to, and she doesn't question the doctor, right? So there's this element of the authority, not trusting her own body anymore. It's like, this has been taken away from you. I will now tell you what to do. Now, I'm of course not saying that you don't listen to doctors if that's best for your health, but I'm saying that it's just this whole go along with what you're told. Like, we go right back to even birth, you know, back in the 60s, women would birth by themselves on their backs, no partner, because that's what they were told to do. Who told them to do it? A male told them to do it, just like Adam, just like, you know, like Adam and Lilith. Lilith was the first woman created, right? Not Eve. So there's this incredible taking away the power which you've been talking about is embedded into women. And it was only recently that women have decided to home birth, or, you know, birth standing up. And look, it's probably been going on for a lot longer than we know from social media and things like that. But, you know, back in those 50s, early 30s, like, I mean, you're in stirrups on metal with lights and no husband there. And it's all this, again, the power being taken away. And what I'm really been intentionally connected to is this being disconnected from your instinct and your knowing. And that is where this sort of element of not knowing who you are, or not anchoring it, and not being sovereign. And I mean, and that is the thing, to have Lilith in the first house. I mean, I believe Lilith herself had Lilith in the first house, you know, like, because it's the self, like, you can't get away from that. And like Mikailah said, everyone has their own story to tell, and Mikailah's has a lot to do with telling the story. And you talked about something about deep in the soul or something, Mikailah. I'm like, well, you've got your Lilith in the 4th house, right? So it couldn't be more in a womb for you to actually be revealing and bringing light to a shadowy darkness that I look forward to you sharing that journey with us, because that 4th house is so hidden. You know, it's the midnight part of the chart, right? So it's deep down, and to have your Lilith there conjunct Vesta, yeah. Incredible journey that you've had to tell the story, that priestess story. I mean, you look like a fucking priestess, like, come on, like, there's no one more that embodies this priestess than you do. So it's so fascinating to me that I've just been really encapsulated with this women not trusting their instincts. And that is the earth, right? Like, that is the earth cycle. It trusts. We watch her. She's not questioning if the leaf should fall off the tree in the wind. The leaf's falling off the tree in the wind. There's surrender, but there's this element of holding, and again, it's repression and suppression, and it is carried on from hundreds and thousands of years. So it's such an incredibly rich topic to talk about, don't you think, Mikailah?
And it is. It's essentially, because it doesn't need to be complicated, where we've been disconnected from our intuition, our psychic gifts, our oracle, the divination gifts, our blood song as women. So yes, whether you're male or female, we all have the inner feminine, the inner masculine. However, as women, we have a blood song. And being disconnected, shamed, our blood song has become taboo. Any of the blood rites, so our first menarche, pregnancy, birthing, menopause, and we have been divorced. Well, some of us, not all of us.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
let's claim that.
Let's be very, very clear.
Yeah.
We are the witches of the ones that they could not burn. So we've got a strong ancestral lineage. I've got spirit shivers right now. We've got a very strong ancestral lineage of our blood, our foremothers, and also our soul essence. Because yes, I've got Black Moon Lilith mean in the 4th house in Leo conjunct Vesta, but my true placement, which I was reintroduced to by you, is conjunct by South Node in Virgo.
Yeah, that adds a whole another can of worms. Come on.
It does. So when you go into that, yeah, so there's 2 different stories that operate there that I can go into later. But, you know, the birthing is interesting because she has been taken away from us in a sense, but we've never actually lost her. So it's really important to rekindle her in your life. And that's why she's a strong powerhouse for any shamanic midwife, because it covers the theme. She's not pretty. It's the dark night of the soul. And it's to do with our birthing rites, death, suicide, not wanting to be here. Religious or spiritual persecution, indoctrination, where we're essentially conditioned to not trust our authentic soul essence. It's the wild spirit of nature. And there's an awesome, one of the beautiful foremothers that worked with Lilith in astrology, obviously Demetra George, M. Kelly Hunter wrote this incredible dramatic monologue, called Lilith Speaks.
Okay.
And I really encourage you to find it and read it, because it encapsulates all of the essence of Lilith in what we're discussing. And my own personal journey with discovering her in astrology was that many years, as you appreciate, being inquisitive, enthusiastic, loving astrology as a personal tool for self-growth. And then, I don't know, I just saw something on Black Moon Lilith and this beautiful woman's name, Babula. And
We all love Babula.
Yeah, I contacted her, and this is many, many years ago. And I asked her to facilitate a Lilith workshop on the Black Moon. She's got her own incredibly powerful, potent initiation with the Black Madonnas. And I walked into the workshop space, and from the moment Babula channeled her and opened it up, this still brings tears to my eyes. I was a puddle, a mess, on the floor, weeping and howling and sobbing from the start of the workshop all day, because it was a homecoming, it was a remembering, it was an initiation, it was a huge psychic release of all of the shame that had been carried throughout my ancestral feminine lineage as a witch. For myself, my own journey, I came home to her. And since that day, because I loved astrology, but it was all the, the basic foundational structure, which is important to learn, but the planets, and, that was all good. That's the foundational structure. When Black Moon Lilith came into astrology for me, and the goddess asteroids, that's when everything went pa-ping, pa-ping, pa-ping. And the connection with being an oracle, a messenger, a storyteller, the feminine essence became embodied and was shared. And that's why I love working with the feminine aspects for everybody in astrology.
And amazingly too, hearing that story of the homecoming for you and the tears and the initiation, because a Black Moon Lilith in the fourth, I mean, you're carrying generations. I mean, I believe fourth house placements, it is very generational. I know some families, they all have Chiron in their fourth and whatever. So you can see with your children if they've broken that by not having planets in their fourth, right? Like, and so to have Black Moon Lilith, the most repressed, like, fucking raw energy of like, you are the Athena, like you're the Lilith, but you're going to carry the sword now, and you're going to dismantle all of the lineage that has been so forced down into a hole around sexuality and all those things that you've brought up. I can only imagine the absolute exhilaration of that workshop for you, Mikailah. Like, it would have just been, like you said, I think homecoming is the most exquisite term for that, because it's like a starry night. Like, all of a sudden everything just makes sense, especially with it in the fourth house, right? I think that Black Moon Lilith in the fourth house, if you have that, I feel like there's going to be this beautiful synergy and connection to what Mikailah's saying. And we would encourage you to go and do things to actually unearth her, because I think that that's a big thing. I think in the fourth house, she needs to be unearthed and rebirthed.
And brought up to the zenith, the top of the chart.
That's right.
Family astrology is fascinating, because my mother is a sacred priestess, and she works and carries the energy of Isis. So an amazing healer for many, many women, reclusive in her own way, in a very sacred way, Om Seti. And she has Black Moon Lilith in the fourth house.
Wow.
In a different sign. My daughter, who is a very wild, rebellious spirit, has Black Moon Lilith in the first house. Wow. So it's fascinating to track it down through the family lineage. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All very potent Lilith woman in our own right, but very different from each other as well.
I mean, I just want to read this, this Lilith, this is true Lilith in the first house, because I just, again, I just, it was sort of a coming home flooring for me too, because it's just been something that not a lot of people understand about me, having it in the first house. But it's just literally this, it's two sentences, but it's just literally, in the realm of personality, whether she's expressed or not, she's present. This is true Lilith in the first. There is a wide range from empowered, honest, unapologetic, and then forthright living, to quiet, sheepish, reserved, and ashamed. So there's this unapologetic Lilith in the first, which is me, and then there's the unapologetic, and then there's the apologetic, the more sheepish, shy Lilith. So living in the latter, you know, these women who have Lilith in the first, in the latter, where they're not empowered, unapologetic, and forthright. I also have Pluto in my first house, so that probably helps. But ultimately, there has to be deep healing done to become aware of Lilith, so that they know that there's nothing to be ashamed about or feared. And when it comes to instincts and because the first house is the physical body. So when I've always just said, I just know, like, that doesn't feel right. That's not right. I feel like I am Lilith. And I also feel like I am Chiron, because I have Chiron exactly conjunct my sun, but that's for another topic. But there's so much, it feels like wounding that I've brought with me, but there's this courage that I've always had to just be myself. Like, someone can say, you need to do this. And I'm like, no, my doctor, tried to give me a Hep B shot. And I'm like, get a life, mate. Like, you're not touching me with that. Whereas a lot of other people succumb to authority. And it's not that I don't have a fear of authority, and I do have Saturn in the 12th, but it's more that what my body feels, I know it so instinctively that I can't actually go against it. And so the courage has always been there for me. It's like the only thing that I'm actually good at is being who I am unapologetically. It's like, the first house Lilith often, just by being themselves in a room, just standing there, pisses people off. People don't like that they are who they are. And that's always been a big part of my journey, right? Of having her in the first.
The aversion, Tiani, because it's like what I find with any strong planets or asteroids or sensitive points in the first house, whether you know about Lilith or not, you are her.
Yeah.
You are the embodiment of her. And if you're around people that are not comfortable in their own Lilith energy and empowerment, they will have a strong aversion. They'll either resonate with you or they'll be repulsed.
Absolutely.
Because there's that repulsion of that energy, because they've been so strongly conditioned. And depending on where she is, if she's close to your ascendant or not, this is the psychological birth imprint of she was with you when you incarnated through the Eastern Gateway and were born. So she's been walking with you from your early formative years. You were not alone. She was with you in spirit. But yeah, what we have in our first house, that's what is engaged with by others.
Exactly, that environment. Yeah, absolutely. And it's just...
So yeah, you are. I'm completely fascinated looking at you, listening to you, spending time with you.
Don't.
Because
you make me cry.
Because you have her in the first house, the angular houses. So we carry very different stories. But that connection.
Yeah, it's amazing. And ultimately I'd only gone with mean Lilith as well. I've lost you there, Mikailah. That's okay.
That's right, I'm back.
Yeah, she's back. When I started learning about true Black Moon Lilith, because there are the mean and true, like Mikailah mentioned, and I just started diving into true, which is more erratic. That's the thing with the true. The mean is more of a medium point to sort of balance out, sort of like like if you were to add your wages up over a year. You could balance it out weekly, right? Like that's the mean point. Same with the mean nodes, true nodes, mean nodes, all those sorts of things. So the true Lilith is very erratic, like Lilith herself. Like that is Lilith. So depending on the teacher that you go to, again, me and Mikailah are like, there's no right or wrong. Like there are so many layers to Lilith. There's an asteroid. We don't just box. It has to be this way. Like it's the same with house systems. I'm sure you're the same people are set on whole, and I'm Placidus, and I'm like, hey, do what feels right, right? But
absolutely,
learning about true, I was so nervous because my mean Lilith is in the first in Scorpio, and I'm like, oh, what if it's not in the first? I've like identified with this, but then my true is as well. So I was still both of them for me, because the true is erratic so much, it can actually be in a completely different sign. Your true Lilith and your mean Lilith can be in just like Mikaila's. She's got a Leo and a Virgo, and both of them are very powerful with the storytelling of Priestess of Vesta in the 4th house, which is a lineage thing, which you can't make up. Like that is a part of her. But now being, diving back into true, she can see that the South Node in Virgo, like that is potent. Like having the Lilith conjunct the South Node, like that is such a potent thing. So do you want to, talk maybe a little bit about her mythology, maybe just let's not talk for 20 minutes about the Adam and Lilith, but just giving the audience just a little bit of insight to who is she and where did she come from and why is she repressed and what happened to her in that Garden of Eden. Do you want to do that, babe?
Sure. So, well, it's going back to her origins in ancient Mesopotamia, which is Sumeria, Babylon.
Yep. And even the Jewish as well.
Yeah. So that comes down later
the track, does it? Okay.
In the Old Testament with the first wife of Adam. So it goes back to that ancient Mesopotamian time where it was matrifocal. So it goes back to the ancient feminine ways of living close to the earth, living in village, where we had the red tent, where we used to go and bleed for 3 days and 3 nights. The circle of grandmothers were always consulted before any major decisions were made within the tribe. So it's essentially what a lot of us are craving to return to: the birthing rites, the sacred sexual rites, our intuition, our guidance, living in community and unity. Now, for some reason, there was a breakdown in those times, and it can be connected back to the great processional ages. So around that time, it was the great age of Taurus. But I'm just giving a very short, succinct synopsis here. So, and it's all conjecture. We don't actually know what caused the breakdown to go from those matrifocal times to patriarchal, which comes in with ancient Mesopotamia and the Old Testament.
And it's like a 6,000 year imbalance, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't know. It's the evolution, the changes, the cycles, the dark moon. There always has to be a cycle that happens here. We don't know why, but it was then her essence of everything that was divinely feminine and sacred and mysterious and magical was divorced. She was exiled and banished. She voluntarily chose to leave and go rather than suppress herself and be subservient to another. So Lilith always stands strong in her own truth, which is exactly what you encapsulate, Tiani, with when you shared your essence of how you're so strongly embodied with her. She refuses to subject herself to anybody else's, and it's the patriarchal conditioning that tries to dominate and control us, divorce us from nature, the industrial age. So we have these stories around shame and taboo, around our birthing rights, our sexuality. In the Victorian ages, women were incredibly sexually repressed, shamed. And then with the sexual revolution in the 60s and 70s, our birthing rights, everything is about coming back and reclaiming this so that we're not under anyone's domination or control. We're authentically aligned. There is always a point of deep subconscious shame or taboo or anger or rage around these themes that you have experienced in your own life. And she will be the guiding light in your chart, in your natal chart, that is with laser perception, zooming you in to a particular life theme that has played out. And then it's up to you to stand up, meet her, embrace her, embody her. You may have to be very gentle and call her out of the shadows because she's been so wounded throughout thousands of years. So she'll either be in your face screeching like the owl, or she'll be wounded, and you have to do a beautiful soul retrieval to embody her again. And what I find fascinating is you can look at your chart. If you try to understand her logically, she will not play the game.
Yeah.
At all.
So true.
You have to feel her. And once you've felt her and met her and embodied her, she keeps revealing. So years later, I'm sure you're the same. There's still aha moments of, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, here she is again and again and again. It's the layers, the psychic scorpionic depths of going deep into her. Yeah?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Trusting, you have to start trusting your body, your own instinctual nature, your own intelligence. It's not about divorcing ourselves from our beautiful high intelligence, but it's where do you honor yourself? And she especially challenges you in relationships. The equality of being in true partnership, whether it's intimate, romantic, friendship, any connection, because she's sharp, she's objective. Yeah. And she's a great one for diving into our shadow to unearth exactly what you said. It's all about the unearthing.
It is. It's really about the unearthing. And what's also so fascinating is that, you know, the moon is always dark. She is never lit up like we think, unless the sun is hitting her, which is why we have a full moon, is because the sun is in that direct alignment with her. So isn't that fascinating though, Mikailah, that without the masculine, she is always dark. The feminine is always dark. And I literally wrote this, and I don't know who it's from, so I can't quote it, but it says, feminine energy is very dark. I don't know where all this love and light come from with the divine feminine, because the divine feminine is respect me or be destroyed. To know that the moon is always dark, she is always dark. She doesn't all of a sudden just go light, but yet we watch her wane, wax, first quarter, second, you know, we watch her third quarter, like we watch her change because of the sun. What's that? That's the masculine. So I believe as well in fully embodying, you must also know your moon sign very well. And you must then embody your sun sign. This is a thing that gets so overlooked in astrology. I mean, yes, sun sign astrology, but without the sun hitting the moon, you want to look at their relationship together. You want to add Lilith to that. Where is she amongst all of this? And Venus too. I mean, I think that even on your website, Mikailah, there's the, you know, Venus has a strong connection because of Erishkigal and Inanna. And, you know, so there is this element of Venusian stuff that we've got to dive into as well when it comes to Lilith. So there's so many portals to access her, because like Mikailah said, you can't just go, oh, I'm going to read about Lilith in the first house. Like, that's great. Like, it's going to give you some gems and some nuggets, but you are embodying this. And we can read anything. Reading and embodying are two different things, you know, talking the path and knowing the path, like I'm walking the path, two different things. So for me too, understanding that the moon is always dark without the masculine, the patriarchy, the moon doesn't get lit up. She doesn't come to her full flourishment. So how does that make a woman feel though? Like, fuck, like, is that a real fuck you sort of thing? Or how do you feel with that? Because to me, there are a lot of women with very, very unhealthy masculine energy. So it's not just the toxic Lilith and feminine, but the toxic masculine. Their Mars is very, very angry. Not saying that we don't have every right to, but there needs to be some sort of self-regulation around our emotions, but also balancing out the sun. Like, the sun is our life force and the moon is our subconscious. She is the dark. She is Lilith. That is why at the darkest, I bleed on a dark moon, and I love bleeding on a dark moon. I bleed just as she gets new, and for me, it's the darkest, most potent time of the moon. And because when it's full, it takes the masculine. So we do have to really then start to engage with our sun sign too, because a lot of people, depending if you've got a night or a day chart as well, if you've got a day chart, often the sun becomes more of a thing. And if you've got a night chart, the moon is more connected. But there's a lot of people who live through their ascendant as well. Like, oh, I've got a Leo sun, but God, I love my Cancer ascendant. It's like, but hey, you're denouncing a part of you as well. And I really do believe that has to do with this connection with embracing and embodying and understanding Lilith as well.
Absolutely. And because there's so many different aspects, and to simplify it, it's with that shadow aspect or the dysfunctional toxic feminine, irrespective of whether we're male or female, where do we project shame onto another? Or where do we feel shame ourselves? Not saying that you do, but it's a great place to start with, because I do not tolerate, and hopefully try to live my life in accordance with this, that I don't shame another, and I certainly will not put up with someone shaming me. It's like the hand of Lilith goes up, and that is one of her, it's like an ethos of her, of how do you live. Also, there's many different aspects of her, and in the journey, my own personal journey, is connecting in with her as a voice of nature. And this is my true Lilith in Virgo conjunct the South node, the dragon's tail in the 5th house, of she comes to me and I feel her and I channel her as the Alvin connection. So yeah, she does go back to ancient Mesopotamia with the ancient feminine ceremonial rites of Inanna, Ishtar, Venus, through the morning descent and the evening ascension and the underworld journey. Inanna and Lilith have a strong connection in ancient mythology. Also, I work with her in the connection through the Grail maidens, the sacred feminine priestesses that carried the ancient knowledge. And to me, she has a strong Alvin connection, which I'm still exploring. So each of us, there's exactly what you say, there's no right or wrong. Trust how she comes to you, because she may come in a different form or energy consciousness that has not been recorded, that is not on Lord Google, that has not been written about
in the million books.
In the million books.
Yeah.
Because she has her own relationship with you.
Exactly. And, I think the earth thing is so beautiful as well, because ultimately, even then, when we went to the biblical side of Lilith, when she was the first woman with Adam, because he wanted the partner. But
not created by the Father God in the sky.
This like, oh my God, don't even. Like, well, this book, have you read this one? Barbara?
No,
Black.
I haven't.
So
you've got amazing resources, I have to say. You've got some incredible resources.
But the thing is that this is very epic. I mean, you've got all the images, you've got all the tablets and the template. Like, it's a pretty rad book, but it's very like talking about Zohar and it's pretty full on. Like, my mind sort of just like, but just talking about when she came, you know, we've, you know, in the book of Lilith, there's, you know, Leviathan, the devil, the sea monster, because she was, when she was told that she must do this, and this is where I resonate, when someone says you must, and I'm not, yes, I have my South Node in Aquarius, but I don't rebel for the sake of rebelling. Like, it's just like, you know, it's that very, I am sovereign to myself. And it's the one thing that I've always been, is sovereign over my body, sovereign over my decisions, sovereign over my heart. And that's what she was right from the beginning. And to be banished from the Garden of Eden, and to me, like, hello, the Garden of Eden, we've got the serpent, we've got Kundalini energy, we've got all that juicy earth stuff. Like, it was the earth. So, and of course, before that, you've got all of your story, which I love, because I don't hear that story enough. I hear more of the biblical side, to be honest, Mikailah. So I've loved that spin on me learning something new today. I mean, of course, I've read things, but the way you describe it is much more palatable. Like, it's very easy to ingest, and you can feel it when you're talking about it. Because the biblical stuff for me, especially this book, it's quite like, oh, a bit of a mind fuck, but it's very interesting, because she that's where Leviathan came in, because all of a sudden she's out near like the Red Sea or something, and just, you know, the babies and all the things, like, and again, I'm not an expert, but some of this stuff, it's very earth, it's very, I mean, she's been called the bride of Satan, the temptress, the murderess, you know, like, there's this energy of her, this sort of devil sort of energy, but it's only because of the outcast. And I think that wherever Lilith is in your chart, that is where society wants you to suppress yourself. So of course, for unawakened people, or maybe very shamed people who have, especially in the first, they feel like they can't be themselves, you know, like, that's a big thing with the first house Lilith, because it's self, and wherever Lilith is, it's this like repression, I think. And again, angular houses are very big, you know, first, fourth, seventh, and 10th, but the first and the fourth, there's something really underworldy about that, you know, because it's self and the underworld, literally, like the soul. And I think the fourth, because it relates so much to ancestries and lineages and what you've been carrying for so long, and the fact that your daughter has broken that by hers moving, that's just fascinating to me. Like, that's what I love about astrology. Like, you can't make this shit up. It's just it's these signatures that go throughout the family lines, and it's just magical. So that first and fourth house, there's, I mean, wherever Lilith is, it's powerful, but I feel that first and fourth house is pretty huge. The seventh, of course, is going to be a lot of relationship stuff with the seventh house with people, of course, because that's the house of relationships, marriage. So that's when you say that in relationships, Lilith can be very testing. I think that really, for me, lands if you've got it in the seventh house too, because there would be quite a combative sort of energy there. Whereas in the first, I also have Juno conjunct Pluto. So I'm so like, not sure of myself, arrogant, you know, I don't think I'm arrogant, but I just know my own self. I'm not here to tell everyone else what they are, but I know me so well that no one else can tell me. That's why I've never seen a psychic before, because how can that person know more than I know about me? They can't, you know, they cannot tell me. And I've had people try and read and all that stuff, and they are never, ever even close to tuning into what I am or what I want or the energy around me. And their spirit guides are telling me, oh, my guide's picking up on this. No, it's not, dickhead. Your guide's picking up on your own shit. You're projecting it onto me, because I know what's going on in my chart and in my life, because I'm the fucking matriarch of that. Like, no one can come and take that away. So that's where I feel very Lilith, and not in a defiant way, but also in a defiant way. Like, hey, I've embodied her and I know her because I am her, as we all are in our own journey, like you say, Mikailah. So yeah, it's just, it's such a, oh my God, I love it so much.
But it's so intense, hey?
Yes.
It's not the love and light. Like,
No.
it is where, and you can find this in a lot of people's stories, it's where our mainstream culture and patriarchal indoctrination tries to break us, to tear us down, to push us over the edge to the point of death.
Yep.
They do not want us to be alive and pulsating. And a beautiful, beautiful feminine spirit, a beautiful young woman cried one day because she was in high school, and very, very strong Lilith in her chart. And she cried and she said, do you know what it's like every day to have to fucking get up and for everyone around me to tear me down every day just for being me. What is wrong? Black Moon Lilith in the first house. So incredibly, it is incredibly hard when we're younger and we're growing up, because it's reflected in our life experiences, in our everyday living world. And it's really tough. It's not pretty. It's not pleasant. It's an initiation, and it's not for the faint-hearted. So at least by discovering her, we start to get some keys and some clues of, okay, where do I need to focus my intention on energetically strengthening myself, making myself more resilient and authentic. Resilience is a big thing here, because we have to do the vulnerable deep dive. But then, okay, the stronger I become, you keep expressing it so beautifully and eloquently, I am who I am.
And it's very easy, I think, to say that, but you know someone who is that. And it's just very different, you know, and it's not the I am who I am with the chip on my shoulder. I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm a bogan bloody asshole or whatever. Like, oh yeah, just take me as I am. It's like, no, there's such a vulnerability and courage and bravery in actually being that, because you are constantly shunned, you know, told you intimidate people, told this, told quieten down, don't do this, don't do that. Like, this is a big, it's all a big calling. Our charts are a big calling. They are calling us home, our charts. But that Lilith isn't for the faint-hearted at all. Like, she is ravenous and she doesn't go anywhere. And I think that when you embody her and know her, and like Mikailah said, you know, begin to anchor in some resilience, because there is then this, you know, the polarizing swing that's gone from, well, now I'm a tantra and I'm gonna, you know, I'm going to be wild in front of all these people, and it looks mentally unstable. Just saying, that is not the embodiment of Lilith either, right? So this is
spot on.
This is this unhealthy, like, well, I'm gonna, you know, tantra everything and fucking, you know, do all of these things and expose my body in the name of my soul and say that I'm fucking Lilith. It's like, no, because she doesn't do that either, because she doesn't need to. Her power is so much stronger than that. It's subtle and it's roaring. And if it's exposed by the body, there's something that's missing. There is something that's missing. And I love my sisters, and I'm just saying, dive deeper into her if you find that that's an easy way to claim your femininity, because we've swung so far the other way that it's unhealthy, it's damaging, and it's not even reclaiming this reclamation of the wild woman. It's actually this reclamation of the toxic woman, because I feel like a lot of those women, whether they're 50 or 20, they're still very maiden-like energy. You know, they're still maiden, which is cool, because, you know, you've got to fucking unravel that shit, right?
Absolutely. And it's all a process.
Yes.
I would love to put it out there. Do you get naked out in nature, cover yourself in mud and go swimming and not have to put it on social media?
Because guess what? You can do stuff and not put it on social media, and it still means that it happened.
And it's not, I'm not saying that social media is not great. I think it's awesome. We stay connected. However, there's something happening with the young people growing up with what they are witnessing and seeing. And look, this may be all part of the unraveling and the unpacking anyway. It's very complex, and it has been. So all I will say is that Demetra George talks about the peacock feather, and the gift of Black Moon Lilith is that she gives us the balm to transmute the poisons and the toxins or the toxic story in our lives. And the peacock transmutes those toxic plants, and it turns into beautiful colors in its vibrant colors in its plumage. That's the essential essence of Lilith as well. It's how do you transmute the toxicity and the poisons, and be very, very clear, because in ancient times, going right back, there's a very interesting energetic with the black magicians of Persia, the black magi, and a curse that was put on the sacred feminine through Lilith. So if you're aware and a magical woman and engaging in particular rituals and rites and ceremonies or expressions, be very, very clear around where you're getting that communication, that guidance from. Because there's also a very elusive, sneaky energy that is can reveal itself in quite interesting ways, where we're still being manipulated by the patriarchal conditioning.
And it's dark, right? And interesting, because I've just read here that I have something that it says there is a paradox that if you dabble in shamanism, it can kill you or enlighten you. Because we're talking, I'm like reading about Algol and Medusa, and that being a part of this Lilith sort of star system as well. And ultimately, the blood from Medusa's left side was also used to heal. Like, it was poisonous and it was used to heal. And then obviously when she was decapitated, she was still just as powerful, right? Because she could still, with her eyes, turn people to stone. Now, I learned a whole lot of this from Percy Jackson. Like, I just want to be real. Like, I've read a lot of stuff, but if you haven't seen Percy Jackson, which is a kid's movie, and The Lightning Thief, it is amazing. So there's two of them, and it's all based on mythology. It's based on Perseus, which is the constellation of Algol. Like, it is wild. Like, we go and, meet Hades, and, it's just the best. Like, they are the best kids movies ever. But the whole Medusa thing comes in again, and there's this element of, that serpent, and that's a very Lilith sort of energy as well, this serpentine energy, and Algol being this very, very dark, somewhat dangerous fixed star that we all have in our charts at 26 degrees Taurus. I just happen to have Venus exactly conjunct it, which luckily is a benefic. But yeah, it's this, all of this, and talking about sort of this toxic feminine, which I'm glad that we've gone into this call has gone exactly how it's meant to, and it's just been so magical. But I'm glad we've weaved that in, because there is an unhealthy toxicity and darkness around the practices that you come into. And when I read that this morning about the paradox is if you dabble in shamanism, it can kill you or enlighten you. And we watch that go both ways in certain people's lives. So I think that was a beautiful story and a beautiful clue as to going deeper with your Lilith, and not just this rebellious fuck you, where we're the same as men. There's this element of that, and it's like, that's not balanced. And because there is an element of, again, balancing out that feminine and masculine within us, and then Lilith adds this layer that's rich, that's blood. Like, I just see it as like an injection of blood, and it's just like, we have to also embody the earth element of her, which you've displayed and talked about so great in this video. And I hope that also helps people, that it's about grounding her, not just getting caught in this ravenous, I'm expressing and doing all those things, but this anchoring to Mama Earth. Like, this is where she wants us to go. We need to be coming back to our roots, to our core, to our instincts, to our intuition, to our blood, to our song line, to our blood song. Like, this is about powerful reclamation without it being loud destruction.
Absolutely. And there's a deep reverence here. There's a deep reverence when we return our blood to Mother Earth. if we are still bleeding, obviously, if we're menopausal, it's coming into our power, owning our empowerment within that. And yeah, absolutely. She doesn't have to look a particular way. Like, it's really important to not keep looking outward at how she's portrayed, but turn inwards, go inwards to how she is for you inside you as an individual, what she means to you, how she expresses to you. It's about meeting her within yourself.
And some of those, no, go.
No, you go.
Well, and I was just going to say, maybe we can offer up some suggestions before we end this video, because we've definitely, you know, talked for like a beautiful amount of time. So this is a nice recording that we'll get out. But some of the sort of the invitation or to, and the questions, you know, some of my questions are, you know, obviously, where is she in your chart? And that house then becomes the house of where society wants you to shut up and be quiet and don't rebel and don't be like that, be like this, you know. So there's that can be a question, and where you suppress or you're disconnected from your intuition or you're disconnected from your own instincts. Do you just rebel against authority, or do you fear it? Like, what's suppressed within you? How are you sexually as a woman? Like, are you asking for your desires? Like, I would offer up those sort of suggestions to dive deeper into. And what about you, Mikailah? Any other sort of the invitation, the offerings that people can go away and go, yes, go and read all the literature, but to embody her and to know her, there can be some other questions that we can invite to evoke some answers, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love simplifying it, and I work very strongly with the elements. So, for example, looking at finding her, whether she's mean or true, what element is the sign in? Earth, air, fire, or water? And then looking at the house and the themes of the house. So, you know, for example, this is just very simply, if she's in an air sign, so whether it's, you know, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, she'll always have different themes playing out, but she will be challenging you not to get too caught up in the logical, rational mind. Drop deep into your intuition. If she's in an earth sign, which is Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, where are you being controlled or dominated, or do you need to really look at connecting into your body sensuality, your relationship with your body, or have you disconnected, disassociated with your relationship with your body? You know, water is emotional and fire is our creative spirit. I mean, we can unpack this even more at another time, because I know that we will definitely be having a segment on more of the toxic feminine Lilith expression, and also in men's charts, their experience of meeting a woman that is quite possibly in a very negative, unhealthy expression of the feminine. It's we need to bring in all aspects here, because it's not about segregating ourselves. So so coming back, I always say grounding, looking at the elements. Grounding, I mean, get out in nature, walk, spend time in the sun, you know, going right back to that time when we were earth people, where we lived close to her. Sleep out under the stars, walk barefoot. Just keep grounding and centering and bringing reverence into your everyday expression. And always, it's like connecting the dots. There will be a life story. I know I've said this before, but this is the key. There will be a life story or theme that has played out for you, that is your Lilith story. So even writing out, connecting the dots, using astrology to remember and reclaim your life story so that you can move forward in a very integrated, healthy expression of that. And any shadow work, I think with Lilith, it's really important to investigate or even learn about the concepts of shadow work, find a therapist. If you're not confident enough to do it yourself, that works with shadow work and reclaiming and then integrating it. And we all have shadows. We all do. We all have blind spots. So earth, nature, the elements, the sign, the houses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some great invitation there to be able to assist you in this element of Lilith and where she is, and I love the elements. I love the elements as well, but that's a great tip to just look at what element she's in, and again, of course, what house, what sign, what does that sign embody as well, whether it is the Scorpio, Cancer, or Pisces, each element having their different sort of, one's more boundless, whatever, one's deeper, blah blah blah. So ultimately continuing to sort of look at those Lilith themes of what Mikailah's suggested, and then those repressed things, like confronting yourself with some of those, and then you can really start to embody or unpack, and and that can be some of your shadow work and so on and so forth, to start really diving deeper into her. Before we leave, and before I wrap up, I'm gonna end this one with this beautiful card from the Goddess Oracle, which is Lilith and power, and you can see that she's got the snake, half snake body there, Mikailah. It's amazing, isn't it? So on our next
she's
call,
in the tree. She's in the tree, which I love. Go climb a tree. I love tree climbing.
It's literally, she nearly looks like you in this picture. Like, come on. I love it. So
see, I see you.
Oh, isn't that amazing?
Yeah. See?
Yeah.
The reflection.
It is. So I just want to read her poem before we end this, and then we'll love you and leave you. But we will be back, and we will be diving deeper into themes on another call. But for now, let's read this. Lilith, power. I dance my life for myself. I am whole. I am complete. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. I dance the dark and the light, the conscious and the unconscious, the sane and the insane. And I speak from myself authentically, with total conviction, without regard for how I might look. All the parts of myself flow into the whole. All my divergent selves unite as one. I listen to what needs to be heard. I never make excuses. I feel my feelings deeply and profoundly. I never hide. I live my sexuality to please myself and pleasure others. I express it as it needs to be expressed, from the core of myself, from the wholeness of my dance. I am female. I am sexual. I am power. I was greatly feared. It's a beautiful way to end such a gorgeous conversation. Thank you so much, Mikailah, for joining this first episode in however many it will be, because we planned on doing a couple today, but we've just dove in straight in and given you guys a really long one to sink your lips and your mouth into, to chew on, and then we will be back for another installment, because there's always so much to dive into, and I know Mikailah's got some other great stories to share too. So thank you so much for watching, and again, thank you so much, Mikailah, for sharing your wisdom. It's such an honor to be here with you and to be in your presence, and I just feel so blessed to be your friend.
Oh, thanks for inviting me, darling, and thank you for holding me in such a sacred space, in the sacred Temenos. Yeah, deepest gratitude for that, hey? And why would we not work with magic? So thank you so much. You've made my day.
Oh, you've made mine. Okay, everyone, We'll be back again.
Thanks,
Bye for
everyone.
now.
Bye.
Bye.